Hello. So there's a few things that I've been contemplating on the astrological side of things recently, so I thought I'd share them with you. So firstly, Mars just went into Aquarius, and it's interesting that we now have Saturn in Aquarius and Mars in Aquarius. Mars is the warrior, and it's the planet of action. It's the planet of anger. And so when this goes into, Aquarius, which is the sign of revolution, of rebellion, of humanitarianism, of equality, brotherhood of man, it is quite possible that we might get a little bit angry about all of these kind of issues. There's the potential for people kind of waking up, so to speak, and waking up and being a bit angry, and angry at the Saturnian loss of liberty, angry at what's going on in the world, angry at the sense of confinement. And with Saturn in Aquarius, this is something I've been kind of contemplating as well, which is quite interesting. And that is that, on the one hand, we have, this new reality of us being on the computers more, this virtual reality that we've kind of been forced into, on some level. Well, we've definitely been forced into it. So that can potentially, there is the potential for this to become a form of control. If everything has to be done online, then everything can be accounted for somehow. Things can be controlled more. If we're not able to, for instance, stand up and kind of rise up in some kind of rebellion in the physical sense, then, there's that kind of control. There's also the feeling of control when it comes to, all things technological. And this could include, the apps that they're coming up with to control the virus, etc., etc. Or it could be 5G. You know, Saturn's going to be in Aquarius for 2.5 years. And while it is, we're going to have potentially a bit of the harsh light of reality kind of shone on all things technical, all things web. And because Saturn is a form, it does represent authority, and it represents control. So there is the potential for some kind of control through technology. And of course, there is the feeling of restriction that comes from that. So that is quite, an interesting thing to think about. Well, what's happening is that Mars in Aquarius is now moving towards on the full moon on the 7th. It's going to be square Uranus, and Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. So this is almost like a double whammy of the same energy. So Mars and Uranus kind of square off to each other. Could that bring, people rising up in anger, or taking action for their liberty? Could it be, some kind of a wake-up call, some kind of a shock that we weren't expecting, something that comes out of the blue, a curveball, There's a few different ways this could come up, but there's certainly kind of a very unpredictable Uranus and Aquarius, kind of unpredictable, erratic energy around this Mars Uranus kind of square, because a square is very dynamic, and yeah, it's almost like the two are squaring off against each other. So I thought that was quite interesting to consider. And then the next thing is that we've got the Jupiter Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. And this can take many different forms, and is taking a few different forms. So I'm just going to describe the energies of the two. You've got Jupiter is growth and expansion, and it can exaggerate and magnify the energy. So at the moment, it's exaggerating and magnifying Plutonian energy, Capricorn energy. And so Capricorn energy can sometimes, that there is that feeling of being controlled or restricted or fearful. Um, that can come up with Pluto, especially with, with Capricorn, sorry, especially with Pluto involved. There can be some paranoia coming up. There can be a sense of like so many truths out there, that what is actually the truth, where we have had so much fake news in the past while when it comes to, Facebook and elections, etc., etc., that it's just hard for anybody to know what actually is the truth anymore. And so there'll be a lot of different versions of the truth going on. So there can be an escalation of fear, an escalation of this kind of pandemic kind of thing going on. There's also the capacity, and another way of looking at all of this is that Jupiter is growth and Pluto is soul growth. It can be quite difficult, and a kind of a sense of purging almost, this Pluto energy. And a transformation, which is Pluto, and also power. And so what's going on with this is that there is this, that what it doesn't really, in a way, it doesn't matter how we got to here or what's going to happen in the future. Just in this particular moment, there are many different versions and many different theories on why and how this has happened, that could be bringing up anger in people. But the fact of matter is, we are in a process, Pluto, of a kind of a crumbling, a death and rebirth of the structure of our lives. And that's both within the collective, as in, the structure of society, Capricorn society, and the governments and the financial system. All the systems are kind of going down. It's very interesting. But at the same time, the structure of our own personal lives is also changing and going through a metamorphosis. And this is very powerful. And I guess we get to kind of like, on some level, there's a sense of what might be reborn from this, when things crumble and something else better takes its place, hopefully. So at the moment, we have this potential for profound transformation and for extreme spiritual and soul growth that could come from all of this. It's not easy, but we do have that potential. And I've noticed that on the 4th, 5th, which is when Jupiter and Pluto are conjunct each other, the exact conjunction comes up, there's going to be a kind of a world peace meditation. And this is kind of like the beauty of Jupiter and the potential for this conjunction to be used in the most positive way. And that is to, kind of rise up and use our faith and come together and use Neptune in Pisces, always come back to Neptune in Pisces, and stand in unison and use the power of this unity that we have right now, this sense of unity. And remember that there is a lot of power behind this sense of being able to kind of rise up and meditate together, chant together, know that we're all in this together, and raise the vibration. And we can do this kind of collectively. And this is the beauty of Neptune in Pisces, is profound empathy and compassion for one another, and a sense of unity within the world, and a real kind of tangible sense of oneness. And so I think that this Jupiter-Pluto conjunction has a couple of kind of, manifestations, possible manifestations. I mean, it's obvious, the building of the fear. It's been hard to kind of fight the fear, but in a way, I think what we're being asked to do at the moment with Neptune and Pisces is just find a way, as best we can, to be as positive as we can, do whatever it is that brings us a bit of peace. Whether it be painting, whether it be, I don't know, whatever it is that you enjoy, doing yoga, meditating if you can, and if you can't, then no worries, chanting together, doing, yoga together, keeping our spirits up as much as possible, And I think that is going to be the key for what's coming next, whatever that is to just, this is an opportunity for us all to turn within and to take advantage of this time to kind of really connect as much as we can to spirit and to one another, and to join in unison. And yeah, it's interesting times, and we'll see what this Uranus square Mars situation brings, especially as it's on a full moon, and full moons do tend to kind of bring our emotions up to a peak. And so that will be building between now and the 7th, and then that Uranus Mars conjunction, sorry, square. So yeah, let's I think the key is just to keep our frequency up, to eat as well as we can, to eat lots of vegetables, to do whatever we can to be as positive as possible, and to remember that we're not alone, that we're all together in this. All right, lots of love. Bye.